Hello, everyone, and I'm going to say good afternoon, but for my guest, Susanna Gold, it's good morning. When we started, when I spoke to Susanna, she said, good morning, Zenzi. I said, good afternoon, Susanna, because I'm here, Zenzi Sewa, in London, and Susanna Gold is in rural Montana near the Canadian border, and it's lovely mountain area, lovely fresh air. Lovely
It's
fresh air and lovely energy. And I like to say where my guests are coming from because they're from all over. We're all over the world going through all different things and sharing our experiences so that we can help one another. So, without further ado, I'd like to say, good morning, Susanna and Susanna Gold. How are you?
Zenzi, good afternoon. And it's great to be starting my day with you. I'm just so privileged to be here with you and your listeners. And I know the topic well. I grew up in a very chaotic household. I had two parents that I actually learned were addicts. My father was a genius astrophysicist, still is, but he soothed his woes with alcohol, and he was a bit of a Peter Pan.
Oh,
And my mother had five children she was caring for before the age of 30. She was a good Catholic woman, and
oh,
she soothed through overeating and food. And back then, Zenzi, they prescribed diet pills for
oh,
women that were suffering with that. And diet pills were straight speed. So the household there was not a stable platform, and I loved my mother dearly. My father was a great adventurer when he was around,
yes,
but it was tough to find any kind of balance. My mother was like a Martha Stewart, and she
yes.
could be so loving and creative, and then the next moment she was beating me to the point where I would be browning out, and I didn't know why. And
Oh,
later, I would come to understand there was a lot of mental illness in the
yeah.
family. There was abuse of every type slathered into every corner and crevice. And a lot of us have so much trauma, we have amnesia
Yes,
about much of our childhood. But for
yes.
me, I remembered way back, way back. Um, I remembered so far back into almost my early toddler period. And I knew, I could sense, and certainly by 4 years old, that I wasn't safe, that
Oh,
my job was to keep my parents together and happy. I would get in the middle of their horrific, brutal fights, some involving, yes, you go.
can I stop you there? A
You
reason why I
can.
stop you is because you just said you were 4 years old and you realized this situation and you realized at the age of 4 you needed to keep your mother and father together and in harmony. And you said at the beginning you were a family of 5 children. So where were you in the place of those 5 children?
Sensi, I was smack in the middle. And
So you
when
had
you
two
look at
olders and two
and two
youngers.
youngers,
So,
and they have a very different experience of their
yes.
childhood than I do. My sister feels like she had a privileged upbringing. My oldest brother is almost complete amnesia, which
Oh,
he's just now coming to deal with.
coming to
Yeah.
terms with, as you
Yeah.
said, we go through amnesia and block it out because we want to be this happy family. And then if you're in the middle and you're 4 years old, that means you had two younger ones. And I just want to ask at this stage, at this present time, do the two younger ones remember anything?
Uh, Bits and pieces, but when they roll it out, it comes back in and goes back into hiding.
Okay.
So,
So,
yes.
yeah. So let me stop you there. Let's continue because it was just, my gosh, you're 4 years old. So please go on. At 4 years old, you realized that you had to keep your parents together.
Yeah. And you never knew what was happening at one moment, But it got so brutal, Zenzi, and so painful. By 6, I had my first suicidal ideation. I opened the kitchen cabinet. I pulled out the butcher block with the knives, pulled one
Gosh.
out, surveyed the blade, and I thought, if I could just lance my little heart with this, all this would be over. And then I heard my mother in the hallway, and I quickly put it away and pretended nothing was wrong. But I always wished myself away from that house. I'd look up in the stars and say, bring me back home. Why did you leave me here?
Yes.
But that home gave me a lot of tenacity.
Yes.
It built an independent spirit within. And it wasn't just that home and the ancestral line, because believe me, my father came from his own brutality. My mother was beaten almost to the point of death. Her father was beaten almost to the point of death by a stepmother. And then he perpetrated it. And then my mother perpetrated it. So it's in the line. And when I go way back, I know what I am here to heal is broad, and I'm doing the work, but it's been extremely painful. So I left that home at 17. I left that home at 17. I'm laughing, I'm smiling, Zenzi. So there is point and purpose to this walk I've made. And after decades of doing the inner work and all different types of modalities, so many different things, I've come to understand I was perfectly placed in that family for the role that I was to play and what I was to bring here to this earthly planet.
Yes.
But I got out at 17, the morning after I graduated from high school. And by 19, I was in New York City, the city of my dreams, doing an arts management internship from college, and went back after college, had a job at this glitzy high-rise talent agency that represented every celebrity known to man. And I wasn't making enough money, Zenzi, so I had to pick up a side hustle, and that was exercise training. So when I was back in my home growing up, I used to soothe by going in the basement in the dark, lying on my beanbag chair on my belly and watching TV. And I would watch Barbara Walters, who was a journalist and interviewer. She used to have big splashy shows before the Academy Awards. She launched The View. So I was working as an exercise instructor, visiting people in their homes, when I got a call from the office. Will you go? No one wants to take Barbara Walters tomorrow. They're all afraid. Will you show up? Oh, sure, I'll go. 7 a.m. Zenzi, I'm knocking on her door. She was a girl's girl in One of Us, and she obviously had her own abuse in her past, because one morning I rang her bell and she's like, what is going on with you? Get in here. She had it out of me within moments. I'd been sexually harassed in the workplace the day before, and it brought so much trauma up. And I wasn't really stable and balanced. And she said, I am coming to you with you to work this morning. We're going to confront this man together. And I said, Barbara, no, that's okay. I think I got it. So I did confront my boss that very day, and he promptly fired me.
Oh, of course.
I think I had 2 months of cash in the bank. I had just extricated myself from an abusive relationship where the gentleman held the purse strings. I'm embarrassed to say now, but that was the truth. At the time. I was probably 33 days clean and sober, because I saw the same red flags coming up in my own adult life that I had seen in my family. My drinking, I was blacking out. I was getting into abusive relationships. I was having the same kind of drama that I saw with my parents. And I didn't know who I was. I was a chameleon, because that's how I survived as a child. I was a super empath. I could intuit your feeling, your tone. I was telepathic. I could get full sentences. And the adults didn't like that. So I shut that down. But that was going to become one of my most valuable tools as I became more awake. And so here I was, and Barbara said, come to work for my fiance. He just launched this big film distribution company. You'll be a great admin for him. And I said, Barbara, thank you so much for the opportunity. I cannot be an admin after what I've experienced. So I opened my own talent brokerage firm, matching celebrities to brands and became very highly skilled at it.
My
And
gosh.
yeah. My first deal was with the modern art master, Andy Warhol. And
Okay.
Donnie Deutsch, who's he's a prominent TV host now and an entrepreneur, but back then he was working for his dad's ad agency. He's like, "You think you can get me Andy Warhol for the Pontiac dealers?" I'm like, "I don't know, I'll try." Nobody answered the phone at the factory, so I took the subway down there, knocked on the door. Fred, Andy's manager, answered. He heard me out. He said, "Come back tomorrow. I'll let you talk to Andy." So I did. And waiting in the foyer, sweating bullets, the double doors open. Fred pops his head out. He's like, "Andy, we'll see you now." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I went in. Andy has these 3 pugs running around the studio. He's scribbling with colored pencils on this page. I shouldn't call it scribble. Gosh, they were worth millions of dollars.
Yes.
But he doesn't make eye contact with me. He's with his dogs, won't make eye contact. I go into my spiel. There's no connection, but I can feel he's desperate. He feels so isolated. He wants the connection. He wants to do this, but he can't really engage. There's just that saran wrap
Yes.
all around him. Finally, he looks up in my eyes for the first time, Zenzi, and he says, "Now, really, why should I do this?" And I didn't know, but that intuitive voice came over my right shoulder and through my heart and said, "Because you can have the pugs in the shot with you." I didn't know if that was true. I had nothing to lose, and I had a hustle. So he looked at me, he looked at the dogs, and he goes, "Okay, we'll do it." Now that's what really launched my career, and I just became known for doing this and ended up in television, doing the same, matching celebrities with brands, and that led me to producing in television and film and out to LA for what I thought was going to be a big job, but it was really to meet my greatest guru. And that was the man who would become my ex-husband.
Okay. And how did that go? And did that help you?
Well, because I got clean and sober so young, and that's been my bottom bargain basement platform. And I've been sober I've been sober for decades. I don't think I would have been able to do the work I needed to do to really face my inner demons, my inner terrorist.
Yes.
So that really helped. And then I had a 10-year stint where I really struggled with clinical depression and learned how to work with that ultimately. And I don't take medication now, but I did take medication off and on for 10 years. And I'm glad I learned about depression and how that operates within my system. And I can get off the elevator much earlier than crashing to the bottom floor. But here I was out in LA. I thought I was living my career dream, and perhaps I was. I mean, I did very well out there. But I met this man and I thought, "Oh, yeah, this is kismet. Here's my soulmate. Oh my gosh, we both grew up in Pennsylvania with horrendous abuse within our childhoods. This is
God, he went through perfect. The same thing as well.
He went through similar things and unfortunately was not able to address them.
Okay.
So ultimately, the dance went on. We had a son who was just beautiful, but I was getting more and more tired. And it really became obvious when I bought a home for our family. And this is in Southern California. Mm-hmm. And I was so proud of this, but I wasn't getting much help financially or physically. I was serving as I had done in my home. I served my mother. I cleaned up after my father's mess. And that's what I was doing again, even though I had all this recovery. I'd done so many therapeutic modalities. I'd gone on long-term silent meditation retreats. I was an active endurance athlete. Something was off, and it was that I was living from the outside in, getting your attention, getting your approval, just glossing over how my own being inside here was in so much pain, and I was doing to myself what had been done to me in my upbringing, and then I took over with the fungo bat in adulthood until I couldn't literally take it anymore. Somehow I Googled the word narcissist. All the bells and whistles fell into place. But I still wasn't ready to quit. I was like, I'm going to make this marriage work. I don't want to be like my parents and fail. I don't want to have my son go through a divorce experience. And so I took him to a mediator, and we were going to try to hash out a post-nuptial agreement to make him fiscally responsible. Don't do that with an alleged narcissist. It doesn't work.
So we got
we got to the last point, the very last point. I thought, oh, my marriage is saved. Fantastic. Everything is great. And he folded his arms and his eyes went in those lizard-like slits. And he said, I'm hiring an attorney and I'm filing for divorce. And again, just like in Andy Warhol's studio, that voice came over my shoulder and through my heart. And it said, this is the universe doing for you what you cannot do for yourself. And this is hellacious, guys, but I think you're going to resonate with it. We went back to our shared home, which quickly became a domicile. He refused not only to leave the house, but to vacate the master bedroom. So I took a mattress across the house and into a partial conversion in our garage. This is a home I bought, maintained, paid for our family. And that was my bottom. There I was, mattress on the floor in a partial conversion in the garage, and where I stayed for the year period. And I chose to see that garage as my own monastery. And when you're trying to separate yourself from one who's allegedly a narcissist, you need to hold no contact. So there we were in the same home, and I wouldn't speak and I didn't make eye contact for a calendar year. Any communication was done by text with one-liners and usually had to do only with our son or by email. And what a horrendous circumstance. It was my nightmare. But this turned in to such a beautiful opportunity for alchemy, because I was able to really understand my value and my worth from within for the first time through this horrific circumstance. And the modalities I worked on were somatic. So I went into my body and really explored those pockets of trauma that were still in there, even though I'd done work and had it all compartmentalized and was functioning. I still wasn't honoring my sovereignty and my full being. And through this experience, that is what I gained. And that's why I call my ex-husband my greatest guru as a teacher, because he freed me.
Before you go any further, what I find very interesting is going back to all that you've been through, and what you've now come out to say is that with all the work you've done from a very young age with the alcohol and because you saw the red flags earlier and you were going through, and now you've met this man, which is, you know, kismet, only to find that you actually attract it. And spiritually, we look at you attract what you are. So even you thought that you had cleared up everything, actually you hadn't, because you attracted this into your life. And right from the beginning, I think, if I can summarize, is that you were doing everything. You were doing it financially, and you said you were getting very little physical out of it. So you were actually carrying everything with all that love and perpetrating the same thing that you, in a way, you were growing up with, and yet didn't realize, because you had done all this work. And as you said, it's funny how it masks itself. And that I think people need to know. It does mask itself. When you think it's okay, sometimes it's not okay. And you need that spiritual work within, and to connect to that spirit within and without, to really be strong and to really bring things up close, because it does come out and give you pockets of information that says, You can do this thing with the dog. You can do this thing this way. This is the person that has helped to bring out things in you, and look at it in a different way so that you can handle it. And I think we really need to understand that sometimes when we do find ourselves into dire situations, and we are connecting to spirit, because obviously you had done some work, so you were connecting and you wanted the light. It will always keep on showing you what else needs to be done, and bring out from you the things that you don't see. And sometimes we're blind, because how long were you in that marriage for?
I was in that marriage for 15 years.
And right at the beginning, it wasn't good, but you kept on. You're reliving it again. So as much as we think we've got it pat, it masked itself, our love, wanting to have that relationship and not wanting your children or your child to go through and see this. We put up with things, and we need to recognize that it's not good, because it's an illusion we're living, and we're teaching our child or our children that it's an illusion. And sometimes it's better to break and be honest and happy than to keep together in pain and brutality. So take it from there, So what happened, knowing that you were sleeping on this mattress at the other end in the house that you were doing everything for, and eventually you got a divorce, and how did that go?
It was brutal. It took that calendar year. If I didn't keep no contact, there's no way that I would have been able to get through it, because the alleged narcissists are so manipulative. But because I held no contact, and because he didn't leave the house, right? I could see clearly there was no way that I could deny what the characteristics of this human being really were. And at the end of that year, I could write that 6-figure check, and he was on to the next victim, and I could rebuild my life with new glasses. And it took time to really nurture myself back to health. That was like the perfect storm. That was like the traumatic experience I believe I've been sent to earth to have to move through for soul evolution. But it took a long time to really heal. And things just kept getting better and better. That garage that I was sleeping in, he had piled floor to ceiling with DVDs and collectible items, posters and vintage stuff. And I cleared it all out. I finished that little partial conversion to a full conversion. It paid for half my mortgage, my taxes, and my insurance. My son and I were together on full balance. We weren't sort of tiptoeing around the house any longer. We were free. And it was the first time that I would pause and start to think, what do you feel inside? What does your heart say? I'm really good with the head. I'm really good with figuring it out and putting the pieces together and producing it. Voila, here we are. But to go into my heart and say, no, I'm not going to go to swim team practice at 5:30 a.m. It's freezing cold out and I'm exhausted. That was a huge step for me. I would plow through and be tenacious. And so as the years went on, that little voice inside my being again said, you have something to share with others. And then I had 3 psychics over my lifetime say, you have a book to write. The last one saying you have 3 books to write. So I thought, oh gosh, I don't want to do this. But up I came. And so I spent some time and I wrote a book called Toxic Family, Transforming Childhood Trauma into Adult Freedom. And that actually wasn't my title. That's my publisher's title, but it's true. I did have a toxic family. I did need to address it. And the book really shares from a loving place where I came from and how I worked with it and how I've healed. I have a relationship with all my family members now, which is quite unusual in these scenarios. But
Yes.
yeah, it's been important to me. And when the book was coming out, I had told them I was writing a book, and I thought if anybody asks, I'll tell them what the book is about. Nobody asked. So when the title moved
Still,
from
still
magical,
covering up, not wanting to face
oh yeah, so
realization.
much so, so much so. But yeah, I felt like this title is throwing all of them under the bus, but this
Yeah.
is the truth, and I believe I've come here to out this, so people hear it's not just you. You know, I've experienced it too. And there's exercises in the back that I used to help me on my way through. And now that little intuitive voice said, enough of LA. You need a more rural setting. And now
Oh,
I am in Montana, living in the most beautiful, expansive sky on the prairie, 360-degree, incredible views, you know,
no.
and helping others gently awaken
You're making me
to,
jealous.
well, you're in London, you know,
Oh
it's
yeah,
kind of nice
but
too.
I've got a garden. Right.
But
Oh
I
my
do help others awaken, and it's really happening now as the systems that we counted on and maybe we knew were subtly awry, we see them collapsing. And there is no choice but to go within now and do the work that we need to do. So I'm helping with groups in doing that and awakening to the beauty that's inside you and the gifts. Because I think I mentioned I was a super empath and even telepathic, and that's back in spades. And it's so much fun to have that back again, that piece of me, and to
Now,
uncover that. Yeah.
you talked about it. Can you explain? Because some people will understand, some people might not understand. What is a super empath and that whole point, please?
I truly believe we're all empathic. We have huge compassion
Mhm.
for others, but it's been trained out of us through our systems, through the way we were schooled and
Yes,
not educated, like
yeah,
taught, like
you're
the,
absolutely correct.
and definitely through, well, in my experience, my religious upbringing, it
Yeah,
was very patriarchal, and definitely within society, this is the way it's done. And I had to awaken all that and say no. But the super empath, like I can tune in and I can feel where your heart is. I know when you're shaking from something that happened 20 years ago. And sometimes I'm more on than others, but I just speak it out and it puts pieces together for
yes.
people. Ba, ba, ba. And then they start to learn about their own sensitivity, their own empathy. You may be taking on the emotions of somebody on the other side of the world, the global collective, and you don't know. You're feeling horribly and you have no idea. Like you went to sleep, you were okay, and you wake up and it's just doom and gloom.
Mm.
So, yeah, I teach people how to awaken to those gifts that they have, and definitely their intuitive gifts, and how to bring it forward.
And when you say you teach them, you have courses, you have classes. How do people connect with you so that you can work with them?
Yeah, anybody can connect with me through susangold.us. That's my website. It'll be down in the show notes.
Yeah.
There is a free course now on the site, and it's all about awakening to your inner power.
Mhm.
So it's certain video lessons followed by, you know, a little PDF to work through
Yeah.
to awaken. And because your viewers are so lovely and I feel the energy, I would love to offer each of you a gift of a complimentary grounding activation. It's just a short 30-minute session to sort of
Yeah.
peel away all the cacophony, all the noise, and get into your heart space.
Oh, how do they get this 30-minute free grounding?
They come to my website, susangold.us, and it's listed there, or you can just email me if that's too much at info@susangold.us.
Okay. I'll put that and I'll get that from you and put that in the notes so when people look, it can be there. And that's so wonderful. That is so wonderful. So you're helping to ground people. You're helping people to connect to their inner self so that they can feel. What else? There's something else you're also doing.
Well, I awaken people with awareness, because a lot of us aren't even aware that we have these systems that have repressed us.
Yeah.
So I gently awaken, and then we know where we are, right? After we're awakened, then we can accept it. That's another piece. And then take action. Because a lot of us just jump right into action and we're not ready. We don't know what we're acting upon.
Yeah.
So we really have to take the time to get grounded and be aware, and then accept it in your being. It's hard to accept, what's been perpetrated. There's a lot of grief in many of us today.
I find when I'm working with people, when you're trying to work with them and make them face their anger and what they tend to try to skip and skip and skip, and you have to say, fine, now let's stop and let's take it one thing at a time. Think of one, let's now look at it. When we've done that thing, because they have to face it, really face it, understand it, and come to terms with it, and realize that, like your ex, he was abused and things have gone on, but he hasn't worked. And it's not that he's doing it purposely. It's just like your mother and your father, they hadn't worked. And other people will see your husband, think, what a lovely man. Other people see your mother, what a lovely woman, your father, and oh, what lovely people. But they don't realize the damage that's inside. And those who are close to them, who love them, who are with them, they're the one that gets the backlash. And that's always the case. And it is about us individually having the courage. And as you say, with your own brothers and sisters, they put on the blinkers, they have the amnesia, they'll go so far, then run back, and they tend to forget and think, like your elder sister, oh, it was so lovely, when they know it wasn't. And we all do it. And we all do it to some extent or another. And it is having to face that, and not face it with ourselves, but also have compassion and understanding, as you did with your ex-husband, that he couldn't help it. It wasn't done purposely. It's what he was damaged, but he just hasn't taken time to sort it, and probably doesn't understand and realize it. So he'll go on, and you just have to say, bless him, and send him good energies that somewhere along the line he will awaken up and do something. Susan, you are doing such wonderful work. You've gone through so much, and this is it. When those of us who are working with the light, we go through so much, we experience in that, and we're actually sharing our experience and what we've gone through, and it's painful. And that's how you can write and you can relate to those who contact you, because you've been there, you've experienced it, and you can understand the masking, and you can sympathize, they can trust that what you're doing is correct.
Well, people can see it in us. I can see the aura in you, and you can see the aura, the brightness. We're telling the truth.
Yeah.
But it is a difficult jump to do it. So much of us, we cover it up with this toxic spirituality.
Yes.
Oh, she was doing the best she could, and not even allowing the grief to process the grief and the truth. So what a wonderful time. What a great time to be on planet Earth. What a great ticket. This is the golden ticket.
So. Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful time, because man is, and as you say, we are awakening because of the collapse of so many things around, and so many things that are happening in our governments and all over. They're actually helping us to see and it's forcing us to see and take action. It's
Yeah.
been there all the time, but we've just been playing mice and, oh well. But now the barriers have been pushed down, and it's been forcing us to really stand up and say, really, really, we are somebody, and we can stand up and have a voice and work on ourselves and realize that we are such a wonderful, powerful force that we don't have to be afraid, and we have to overcome those barriers so that we can stand and be and share it with one another, and have empathy and have, what do I want to say, not be harsh with those who haven't got there yet.
Absolutely not. I'll share that my own brother, my oldest brother, and he and I had the most abuse between us, horrendous abuse. And I did a lot of work to confront him in my early 20s, and I did. And he said, that didn't happen, but if it did, here's why it happened. So he just sort of erased it. And then years later, the book comes out, and he actually has the courage. He read my book, and I give him a lot of applause for that. And he was devastated after he read it. He went into a suicidal, depressive place himself because it just brought up so much for him. And he had so much shame for not being a better brother. And I said, you did the best you can. You're here for a life journey. And so was I.
Right.
And now he's back in that piece where he's willing again to go take a look, but it's so terrifying. It's so terrifying. And so, for his birthday, he was quite blue, but I have faith he's going to step up, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It is. It is a terrifying thing, but we need to realize that we have to do it. We are strong enough that we can do it and not beat ourselves up. If somebody, like in your brother's situation, oh, I wasn't there for my younger sister, or I wasn't there for my older sister, or did I do that? Did I do this? Not to beat yourself up. And I say this to our viewers, when you have to confront yourself, please do not beat yourself up if you were at the hands of abuse or you were the abuser, but you're now realizing and you're taking those steps to change. It's happening all over, and your actions will help to heal and help somebody else. So it's about facing it. And I like to say that everything is cause and effect. We are creative beings, and whatever we do, we have to experience. So if we do something that's not very nice, and sometimes, as you say, generational. So we live many lives. So sometimes we've done something, and now in this life, we have to face it. And it's not a punishment. We created it, and we must experience that which we create. And through that strength and through that facing it, we can stand up and say, that's not right. And we can change it. And through that, we become stronger and we have greater wisdom. And that's how we grow spiritually and become bigger in the collective. Because then we know the difference between negative, positive, what doesn't work, what does work, what feels pain and what doesn't give pain. And it all comes to our knowledge and being that higher master that we really are. Susan Gold, this has been lovely. Is there anything else you want to share with us before we say goodbye?
I do just want to share that I want to thank you for creating this platform. It takes time, it takes money, it takes effort, it takes devotion, and you're putting out amazing content for your viewers. And to the viewers, I want to say that you have point, you have purpose, and you are here with reason. So much love.
Oh, so much love, because we were created from unconditional love, from a creator who created the whole universe from unconditional love. So we just have to connect and bring that love out and have compassion for others, and moreover, love ourselves so we can share that. So for now, Susan Gold, thank you so much for sharing it. I've got a lot from that. I've loved listening to this. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to my viewers. I hope you've got as much as I have. And I will be putting in the notes how we can contact Susan, what she does. And do get that free grounding. It's so important to be grounded. So once again, thank you, Susan.
Thank you,
Enjoy
Zenzi.
Montana and with the mountains. Oh, the mountains, the fresh air. Oh, lovely. And I want to say thank you, and thank you to my viewers, and bye for now. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.